I received a call 3 years after my family cut me off completely. The sound of my mother's voice sent shivers down my spine as she asked to meet. After being physically beaten and thrown out based on false accusations, their sudden desire for reconciliation felt surreal. What shocked me more was learning about Sophia and a baby daughter I never knew existed. My family now expected me to simply forgive and forget, as if 3 years of abandonment meant nothing. Before I tell you how my world shattered and how I finally stood my ground, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit subscribe if you want to hear more stories about choosing yourself when everyone else fails you. I grew up in a middle-class neighborhood in Boston with my traditional parents, Richard and Diane. They were strict but fair, or so I thought. My older sister, Megan, always had my back whenever our parents would get too rigid with their rules. She was my biggest supporter throughout my childhood and teen years. When I started college, I met Sophia during freshman orientation. We clicked, instantly bonding over our shared love of classic films and hiking. By our third date, I knew she was special. We dated for 3 solid years, building what I believed was an unshakable foundation of trust and love. During those college years, Tyler remained my closest friend from high school. We had been inseparable since 10th grade when we were paired for a science project. He was outgoing and popular while I was more reserved, so our friendship seemed to balance perfectly. Tyler followed me to the same university, though he studied business while I pursued engineering. Senior year arrived faster than any of us expected. I was excelling in my program, and recruiters had taken notice. A major tech firm on the West Coast offered me a position that would start immediately after graduation. The salary was double what most of my classmates were being offered. I was ecstatic and immediately shared the news with Sophia, who was genuinely happy for me despite knowing it meant relocation. With my future seemingly set, I decided it was time to propose to Sophia. I spent 2 months' worth of part-time job savings on a modest but beautiful engagement ring, hiding it in my dresser until graduation night when I planned to ask her to join me across the country as my wife. What I failed to notice during this time was the change in Tyler. His grades were slipping and he had been rejected from several jobs he applied for. In hindsight, the signs of his resentment were clear. The lingering looks he gave Sophia when he thought no one was watching. The subtle digs at my career prospects disguised as jokes. The increasing frequency with which he would try to spend time alone with Sophia, offering to drive her home or study together. The night everything fell apart was supposed to be a simple family dinner. My parents had invited Sophia, Megan, and me over to celebrate my upcoming graduation. I never expected Tyler to show up uninvited, his face grave, with what I now know was manufactured concern. The doorbell rang just as we were finishing the main course. My father answered, returning with Tyler, whose expression was the perfect mask of distress. My mother immediately sensed something was wrong. "Tyler, what brings you here tonight? Is everything okay?" Tyler looked at me with what appeared to be pity before turning to Sophia. "I didn't want to do this, especially not like this, but I cannot stay silent anymore." He pulled out his phone, unlocking it with shaking hands that I now know were performing for an audience. "Sophia, there is something you need to see." Before I could process what was happening, Tyler showed Sophia something on his phone. Her face transformed instantly from confusion to horror to heartbreak in the span of seconds. Tears welled in her eyes as she handed the phone to my father. "What is this about?" I asked, completely bewildered by the sudden tension. My father looked at the screen, his face darkening with each passing second. Without warning, he lunged across the table, grabbing me by my shirt collar. "You disgraceful piece of garbage. How could you do this to such a wonderful girl?" Still confused, I struggled to free myself from his grip. "Do what? I have no idea what you are talking about." Tyler stepped forward, his voice dripping with false sincerity. "I saw you with that blonde at the reserve last night. I took pictures because Sophia deserves to know the truth." He gestured to his phone, now being passed to my mother. "There are also screenshots of your texts with her planning your next meetup." I was dumbfounded. "What blonde?" "I was at the library studying for finals until closing. You can check my student card swipe records." Sophia was sobbing, now her whole body trembling. 3 years, Caleb. 3 years I trusted you completely. This is insane. I never cheated on you, Sophia. Tyler is lying. I turned desperately to my family. Mom, Dad, you know me. I would never do something like this. But their faces had already hardened with judgment. My father's fist connected with my jaw before I could say another word. The force knocked me to the ground. I tasted blood in my mouth as he continued to punch me repeatedly. Dad, stop, I pleaded, trying to shield myself from the blows. My mother, instead of intervening, joined in with verbal assault. We raised you better than this. You are a disgrace to this family. Even Megan, who had always defended me, stood silently by, her eyes filled with disappointment. How could you, Caleb? We all trusted you. Within minutes I was thrown out of the house with nothing but the clothes on my back, my wallet, and my phone. The door slammed behind me, my father's final words ringing in my ears. You are no longer welcome in this family. Disoriented and injured, I stumbled to my car. I tried calling Sophia repeatedly that night, but she had already blocked my number. The same was true for my parents and Megan. Every social media account I had was blocked by all of them within hours. I spent that night in my car, unable to return to the apartment I shared with 2 other students because Tyler had a spare key. Fearing further confrontation, I moved what few possessions I could salvage to a storage unit and lived out of my car for the next 2 weeks until graduation. Not once during this time did anyone from my family or Sophia attempt to hear my side of the story. The people who claimed to love me had condemned me based solely on the word of one person without a shred of actual evidence or the basic courtesy of allowing me to defend myself. With nowhere else to go and no support system left, I made the painful decision to accept the job offer in Seattle. The cross-country drive gave me plenty of time alone with my thoughts and growing resentment. Each mile marker that passed seemed to put physical distance between me and the betrayal, but the emotional wounds only festered. I arrived in Seattle with nothing but a suitcase of clothes and overwhelming grief. The company had arranged temporary housing for new hires, a tiny studio apartment that felt more like a cell than a home. Those first few nights I barely slept, replaying every moment with Tyler, looking for signs I might have missed, wondering how someone I considered a brother could fabricate such elaborate lies. Depression became my constant companion. I lost weight, stopped calling the few distant friends I had, and focused entirely on work as a distraction. My new colleagues probably thought I was just intensely dedicated, but in reality, I was simply trying to escape my own thoughts. 3 months into my new job, I made my first genuine connection in Seattle. Marcus, a fellow engineer who noticed I always ate lunch alone, invited me to join a group project that required after-hours collaboration. His simple act of inclusion was the first kindness I had experienced since the night my family disowned me. You know you are brilliant at solving technical problems, but you look like you are carrying the weight of the world, Marcus said one evening as we wrapped up work. Whatever it is, man, sometimes talking helps. Something about his genuine concern cracked my carefully constructed walls. That night, over beers at a local pub, I told him everything. Instead of judgment, I received understanding. That is messed up, Caleb. Family should at least give you the benefit of the doubt. With Marcus's encouragement, I attempted to reach out to my parents on Thanksgiving, sending a simple message expressing that I missed them despite everything. The message was read but never answered. I tried again at Christmas with the same result. Through a mutual college acquaintance who reached out after seeing my LinkedIn update, I learned that Sophia was pregnant. The timing suggested the child could be mine, but given how thoroughly she believed Tyler's lies, I assumed she had moved on with someone else. The news reopened wounds I had desperately tried to close. My company offered an employee assistance program that included therapy sessions. After months of resistance, I finally made an appointment. Dr. Rivera helped me understand that what I experienced was not just betrayal but a form of trauma. Your family and girlfriend essentially erased you from their lives without due process, she explained during one session. That is a profound rejection that touches on our deepest fears of abandonment. Gradually, with therapy and Marcus's friendship, I began to heal. 6 months into my Seattle life, I joined a community basketball league where I met more people outside of work. One teammate invited me to a housewarming party where I met Emma, a kindergarten teacher with a quick wit and kind eyes. After my experience with Sophia, trust did not come easily. Emma and I started as friends, occasionally meeting for coffee after games. She never pushed for more, respecting my hesitation without taking it personally. Her patience allowed me to lower my guard gradually. A year after moving to Seattle, I received my first promotion at work. The same day, I finally agreed to a proper date with Emma. Sitting across from her at a small Italian restaurant, I realized I was laughing genuinely for the first time in months. "You should do that more often," Emma said. "You have a great laugh." "I am working on it," I replied honestly. Our relationship developed slowly, with Emma never rushing me when conversations about my past became difficult. When I finally told her the full story of my family's betrayal, she held my hand across the table and simply said, "Their loss is immeasurable, and they do not even know it yet." By the 2-year mark, I had built what felt like a new life. A promotion to management position gave me financial security. My relationship with Emma had deepened into something I never thought I would experience again. We moved in together, buying a small house with a yard where Emma planted a garden, and I built a deck with my own hands. The friends I had made in Seattle became my chosen family. Marcus and his wife, my basketball teammates, Emma's teacher friends, all formed a community that showed me what genuine support felt like. Just when I had finally found stability, a notification appeared on my phone that sent my heart racing. A message from Megan, my first contact with family in 3 years. "Caleb, we need to talk," Tyler confessed. "We know the truth now. Please call me." I stared at my sister's message for hours before showing it to Emma. My hands trembled as I read it aloud. "What are you going to do?" Emma asked, her voice gentle but concerned. "I honestly do not know," I admitted. Part of me wants answers, but another part has finally found peace without them in my life. After a sleepless night, I responded to Megan asking for more information before agreeing to any conversation. Her reply came within minutes, as if she had been waiting anxiously by her phone. She explained that Tyler and Sophia had gotten engaged 6 months earlier. During their engagement party, Tyler had too much to drink and got into an argument with one of Sophia's cousins who had always been suspicious of him. In his intoxicated state, Tyler accidentally revealed parts of his deception. When confronted directly by my parents the next day, he finally confessed to the elaborate lie he had created 3 years ago. The most shocking revelation came at the end of Megan's message. Sophia's 2-year-old daughter, Lily, was almost certainly my biological child, conceived shortly before our breakup. The timing matched perfectly, and the little girl apparently had my distinctive green eyes, a genetic trait that ran in my family. Within days of my initial exchange with Megan, my mother called. The sound of her voice after 3 years felt surreal. "Caleb, sweetheart, we need to see you," she said, her tone dripping with an expectation of immediate forgiveness that set my teeth on edge. "Why now, Mom?" "It has been 3 years," I replied, fighting to keep my voice steady. "Because we are family," she answered, as if those simple words erased everything. "And you have a daughter who needs to meet her father." There was no acknowledgement of the pain they had caused. No genuine apology for the beatings, the rejection, the years of silence. Just an expectation that blood ties trumped everything else. Despite my reservations, I agreed to meet them at a restaurant near my home in Seattle. They would fly out the following weekend, bringing Megan, Sophia, and apparently my daughter Lily. Emma insisted on coming with me, providing the support I would desperately need. "Whatever happens," she assured me, squeezing my hand, "we will face it together." The meeting was more difficult than I could have imagined. Seeing my parents across the restaurant table, older but essentially unchanged, brought back the physical memory of my father's fists. Megan looked genuinely remorseful, but my parents maintained an air of entitlement that was immediately apparent. Sophia sat awkwardly beside them, a small child with curly brown hair and unmistakably familiar green eyes half hiding behind her. The sight of Lily knocked the wind out of me. I had a daughter I knew nothing about who had been kept from me based on a lie. "Caleb, you are looking well." My father started his tone, suggesting we were resuming a conversation after a brief separation rather than 3 years of complete estrangement. My mother reached across the table, attempting to take my hand, which I subtly moved away. "We have missed you so much, son." "Have you?" I asked quietly. "Because not once in 3 years did you attempt to verify if what Tyler claimed was true. Not once did you try to contact me or hear my side." My father cleared his throat uncomfortably. "We made a mistake, obviously. We should have listened to you." There was no acknowledgement of the violence, no mention of how he had physically assaulted me before throwing me out. Just a casual admission of a mistake, as if he had accidentally taken my car keys rather than destroyed my relationship with my entire family. "We thought we were protecting Sophia," my mother added defensively. "The evidence Tyler showed us seemed so convincing. So convincing that it warranted beating your son and disowning him without a conversation," Emma asked, her voice calm but sharp. My parents looked surprised at her intervention, clearly not expecting my partner to speak up. "Family matters are complicated," my father replied dismissively. "Blood is thicker than water, Caleb. You cannot hold grudges forever. We are here now trying to make amends." Sophia finally spoke, her voice quavering. "I should have trusted you, Caleb. I'm so sorry I believed Tyler without question. When I found out I was pregnant after everything, I just assumed it was yours. But by then you were gone, and everyone told me to move on." "Did you ever try to find me?" I asked her directly. "A simple internet search would have shown where I was working." She looked down ashamed. "Tyler convinced everyone you had become dangerous, unstable. He showed fake angry messages he claimed were from you. We were all afraid to reach out." The most shocking revelation came when Megan admitted that my parents and Sophia had maintained a relationship with Tyler for nearly 2 years after my departure, only distancing themselves in the past year when small inconsistencies in his story began to emerge. "You stayed friends with the man who destroyed my life?" I asked incredulously. "We did not know he was lying." My mother defended weakly. "But you knew for certain I was your son," I countered, "and you chose a family friend over your own child." The conversation continued to deteriorate when my mother suggested with stunning insensitivity that I should be grateful they had brought my daughter to meet me. "Many men would thank us for connecting them with their child," she said, completely missing the point. That was the moment something broke inside me. All the therapy, all the healing I had done over 3 years seemed to evaporate as rage flooded my system. "Thank you," I repeated, my voice dangerously quiet. "You want me to thank you for allowing me to meet the daughter you kept from me, based on lies you chose to believe, for destroying my relationship with her mother, for physically assaulting me and throwing me out with nothing, for 3 years of complete abandonment." While I rebuilt my life entirely alone, I took a deep breath, feeling Emma's steadying hand on my arm. "Here is my ultimatum," I continued, looking each family member in the eye. "I want a sincere, complete apology that acknowledges exactly what you did and the specific harm it caused. I want accountability, not excuses. Until I receive that, there will be no relationship." I turned to Sophia specifically. "As for my daughter, I will pursue legal channels to establish paternity and appropriate custody arrangements. But my relationship with her will be separate from any relationship with the rest of you." My father's face darkened. "You cannot keep our granddaughter from us. We are family whether you like it or not." "Family does not beat family," I said simply. "Family does not disown without evidence. Family listens. You failed at the most basic requirements of the word." I stood up, Emma rising beside me. "I need time and proof that you have changed. Ball is in your court." As we walked away, my mother called after me. "You are being unnecessarily harsh." We came all this way. I did not look back. The aftermath was predictably chaotic. My phone exploded with messages and calls from family members, some I had not heard from in years, all suddenly invested in our reconciliation. Most messages fell into the category of toxic guilt tripping. "Your mother has been crying for days. Family forgives each other. You are being stubborn and cruel." 2 days after the confrontation, Megan called with disturbing news. Sophia had attempted self-harm after our meeting, apparently overwhelmed by guilt and my rejection. She was physically fine but receiving psychiatric care. "This is your fault," my father raged when he called later. "If you had just accepted our apology like a reasonable person, none of this would have happened." His words only confirmed what I already knew. Nothing had changed. They still refused to take responsibility for their actions, still expected me to accommodate their feelings while ignoring my own. The weeks following that disastrous meeting were some of the most challenging since my initial exile from the family. I consulted a family lawyer about my parental rights and the process of establishing a relationship with Lily. "Given the circumstances, the courts will likely be sympathetic to your position," the lawyer advised. "We can arrange for a paternity test and begin proceedings for a formal custody arrangement." I sent my parents a cease and desist letter through the lawyer requesting they stop contacting me directly and route all communication through legal channels. It was a drastic step, but necessary for my mental health as their messages had become increasingly manipulative. My therapist helped me process the complex emotions surrounding the reunion. "It is perfectly valid to set boundaries even with family," she assured me, "especially when they have shown no genuine remorse for their actions." Emma remained my rock throughout the ordeal, never once suggesting I should cave to family pressure for an easier life. "Your boundaries protect the life we have built," she reminded me. "You deserve that protection." I learned from Megan, who had begun to send more respectful, measured messages, that Sophia was receiving proper mental health care. Her attempt at self-harm had been more a cry for help than a serious attempt, but it highlighted how deeply the situation had affected everyone involved. When I felt emotionally stable enough, I arranged to meet Lily in a supervised setting with a family counselor present. The moment she looked up at me with eyes so identical to mine, something shifted in my heart. Despite the circumstances of our meeting, she was innocent in all of this, a child who deserved to know her father. "Hi, Lily," I said softly, kneeling to her level. "I am very happy to meet you." She regarded me with childish curiosity. "Mommy says you are my real daddy." "Yes," I answered simply, "and I would very much like to get to know you if that is okay." Our first meeting was brief, but meaningful. We established a routine of short, regular visits, gradually building comfort and familiarity. I was determined that whatever happened with the rest of the family, Lily would never doubt that she was loved and wanted. Megan requested to meet me individually without our parents present. Over coffee, she offered what felt like the first genuine apology I had received. "I failed you as a sister," she said, tears in her eyes. "I should have at least considered your side of the story. I should have reached out when doubts about Tyler began to surface. There is no excuse, and I am truly sorry, Caleb." Her honesty was refreshing after our parents' defensive posturing. "Why are Mom and Dad so resistant to acknowledging what they did?" I asked her. Megan sighed. "I think admitting the full extent of their mistake is too painful. Dad especially cannot reconcile his self-image as a protective father with the reality that he assaulted his innocent son. It is easier to minimize and expect you to move on than to truly face what they did. I cannot have them in my life if they cannot acknowledge the harm they caused," I told her. "Not just for my sake, but for Lily's too. She deserves better than to witness that kind of denial modeled as acceptable behavior." Over the following months, I established a legally protected co-parenting relationship with Sophia. Our interactions were civil but distant, focused entirely on Lily's well-being. I forgave Sophia more easily than my parents, understanding that Tyler's manipulation had targeted her most directly, playing on her insecurities and trust. My parents continued to send messages through extended family, alternating between guilt trips and demands disguised as olive branches. Each one reinforced my decision to maintain distance. They had not changed, still viewing my boundaries as an affront rather than a natural consequence of their actions. 6 months after our confrontation, I had developed a beautiful relationship with Lily. She stayed with Emma and me every other weekend, filling our home with laughter and sticky fingerprints. Emma, remarkable in her generosity of spirit, embraced her completely. "She has your stubbornness," Emma noted with affection, as we watched Lily determinedly building a tower of blocks, "and your laugh." A year after reuniting with my family, I maintained limited, structured contact with my parents. They were permitted to see Lily during my custody time, only under specific conditions with me present, and with strict boundaries about what they could discuss. It was not ideal, but it was the only arrangement that felt safe given their continued refusal to fully acknowledge their past behavior. Through this painful journey, I discovered that true family is defined not by blood but by respect, support, and genuine care. The family I built in Seattle with Emma, our friends, and now Lily provided the unconditional love I had once thought only biological family could offer. I learned that forgiveness does not require resuming toxic relationships. Sometimes the most healing path forward involves loving from a distance, setting firm boundaries, and prioritizing your own well-being. The 3-year void created by my family's betrayal ultimately led me to build something stronger, more authentic, and deeply rooted in mutual respect rather than obligation. In losing what I thought was essential, I discovered what truly matters. Have you ever had to set boundaries with toxic family members? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story might help someone else find the courage to stand up for themselves. Do not forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more stories about finding strength when standing alone. Share this with someone who needs to hear that sometimes the family we choose is more important than the family we are born into. Thank you for listening, and remember, your worth is not determined by those who failed to see it.